I guess in order, the first thing would be the WWE AAA Spectacular Worlds Collide, which aired live on YouTube, available for streaming thereafter. Apparently broke all sorts of numbers for WWE on YouTube. How much of this show were you able to see?
Oh, I was able to see all of it. I just wasn't willing to see all of it. No, I have never been bashful about saying it's not my cup of tea, but at the same time, the relationship between American wrestling and Lucha Libre has been complicated going back to the territory days and back to the origins of the business in both countries. I think now they may try again, and there may be better success with finding a crossover audience. Previously, there has not really been a crossover audience of any sizable amount where you could say, well, the WWE is going to make their fans fans of authentic lucha. Or to be quite honest, the dedicated fans of authentic lucha, it's going to be hard to make them WWE fans. The crossover's been tried. We tried it in Ring of Honor in 2010 in that show in Charlotte. And Adam Pearce knew, oh, goddamn, whoever it was that was booking a bunch of the lucha talent at the time. And we had Blue Demon and legitimate names, because Gary Juster in Charlotte knew a guy who owned like 4 or 5 Hispanic, Spanish language radio stations, which was new to me because when I lived there in the 80s, I didn't know they had any. And I don't think they did, but now they did. And so we're like, okay, if we can get 1,000 Ring of Honor fans and 1,000 Lucha fans, well, that would be just swell. And this guy owned the radio station gave us the store. And we had all of the talent come in a day early and do promos on the radio stations in Spanish. And we had dual language posters and blah, blah, blah. And the day of the event came, and instead of 1,000 Ring of Honor fans and 1,000 Lucha fans, we got 994 Ring of Honor fans and 6 Lucha fans. They didn't fucking come at all. But at the same time, there were some Lucha shows in the area that were all Lucha that had done several hundred people on an intermittent basis. But they were all Lucha fans. There's been especially during the territory days, and now there were guys that crossed over, the Guerrero family, and Mascaras was huge in New York and in Texas, California. But a lot of those guys not only were somewhat versed in working with Americans, but the Lucha style then was not in Mexico wasn't as over the top as it is now, or as it has become like America over the last 20 years. But you couldn't, the straight lucha, which is ingrained in Mexico, and it's what they know and what they're used to, and you don't want to change that. But especially in the territories, to American fans, there was a large element of what the fuck is this? Whether it was from the overly acrobatic gymnastic, potentially choreographed style, to the over the top outfits and the masks and the what the fuck is going on. And it was an international version of, we've talked about so many times, Philadelphia wrestling didn't work in Tennessee. Tennessee wrestling didn't work in Philadelphia. But now that, I guess, Brian, what I'm trying to say is the American fan is not saying now, first and foremost, when he sees Lucha, well, that's just some phony bullshit, because it's all phony bullshit. The need to have anything look credible has never been lower. And the fans that want to go to wrestling and just to see a performance, whether it, because I mean, let's face it, and what we're going to talk about specifically here in a second with Mr. Iguana, it looked like a Saturday Night Live sketch. Whereas 50 years ago, the fans would have set seats on fire if you'd have put that in Atlanta at the City Auditorium. Now they know it's all fun and it's all bullshit and they're there to see the show. And now it remains to be seen whether it will draw any serious money or not still. But the fans, I think, of today in America will probably be some of them are still going to say, what the fuck is this? Because there's a lot of element of what the fuck is this? But they're more predisposed now in America to just watch a bullshit match because it's fun, aren't they?
Well, Lucha style has been incorporated in just about everything over the past 25 years. Again, this was in LA, and that's LA and then maybe Chicago and then New York are probably the biggest markets you could maybe, I don't know. Has there been a big successful Lucha show in South Florida? I'm not sure, but
well, San Antonio, you could do something. See, South Florida is, I've been told by people who would know more about it than me, i.e. people of Hispanic descent, that in South Florida, they don't like the Mexican folks as much as they like the Cuban folks and the Puerto Rican folks. So it's a different.
Well, again, we're talking about wrestling, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it's not like it's something that they grew up with and crossed the border into Laredo, Texas. No, we're over here in Miami and we don't do a lot of lucha over here.
But the style has been everywhere. Unfortunately, when you look at the lucha influence over American wrestling, in a lot of cases, it feels like it's more of Antonio Peña's vision of lucha than, CMLL or EMLL, whatever they want to call themselves nowadays. That was one of the big takeaways from watching this event. You're at a point now where you watch these guys like a psycho clown and whoever his clown partner was, because I never got his name really. There was a second clown character. It doesn't seem like it wouldn't fit into American wrestling now. And it wouldn't.
Sadly, yeah.
It would not fit in, or it would fit in perfectly.
Yeah, not a double negative. Yes.
And not just AEW. I think that's the other thing. Mr. Iguana, and I don't want to, we'll get into it in a moment, but Mr. Iguana was the equivalent of Orange Cassidy showing up on WWE TV. And, we would kill, and we did AEW for Orange Cassidy. This was WWE having Orange Cassidy. And WWE is not beyond that anymore. WWE is about exploiting anything that will make them money and work, even if it's only for a second.
And even if they have to sell stuffed iguanas. But that's the point in general that I'm making about the Lucha American crossover has been tried by numerous companies. And people are going to say, oh, well, what about When Worlds Collide? AAA that was a AAA show in Los Angeles. It wasn't like, and there were Americans on it because the Americans were working in Mexico for AAA at that time.
Yeah, well, Ron Skoller was really the real mastermind of the reason why a lot of people were on that show that wouldn't typically appear on a show. Like Tito Santana was on that show. There were some interesting picks. Too Cold Scorpio was on that show. But that was a AAA IWC Lucha show presented for a Lucha audience, aired to anyone who wanted to buy it. It ended up being one of the best pay-per-views of all time, one of the greatest jobs of commentary ever. Mike Tenay's debut, and Chris Cruz's best night as a commentator ever. It was an extraordinary night. And, that was kind of the beginning. You could say, sure, some of these guys were doing things in the States, and sure, some of them went to ECW after that. But that was the beginning of the period of time of, you look at almost everyone on that show, they ended up on Nitro. At some point, Art Barr died. If Art Barr hadn't died, he would have been on Nitro or Raw.
Well, let's be fair. Everybody ended up on one or the other at some point in time when they had 300 and something guys under contract between the two companies. But the point is, it was a crossover in terms of WCW presented that pay-per-view. Ron Skoller was the mastermind behind the live event promotion, but it was a Lucha show promoted for a Lucha audience. And they had some successes doing that in the major cities where there was an audience for Lucha.
LA?
But
again, LA was the market. I mean, they did okay in Chicago. They did okay in New York, I guess, but LA.
Well, and right now, MLW is doing great in Chicago because they're focusing on the luchadors and that lucha audience. But the point I'm making is it's rare, if not unheard of, for a legitimate co-promotion of an American company and a lucha company, or back in the territory days, for any straight lucha to be on a territory show and for it to get over. It's been two different audiences. This may be, if it's not, it's the best chance ever. If it's not the chance it's going to do it, it's the best chance ever, because the need for a match to not look like a goddamn Saturday Night Live sketch is at its lowest ever in the United States of America.
Yes.
These people just want to see hokey fucking silly shit.
They want to be there for a live audience reaction to whatever they're going to see. You know, you bring up MLW, and it's interesting because I have not watched those shows. I've heard about them. I've heard from people who worked on those shows. And I think it's the opposite of what you had with Ring of Honor. I mean, tell me what you've heard. In Chicago, they're getting the Lucha fans, not the MLW fans. They're getting the CMLL fans.
Yeah, no, there was like, I can't remember how many the building holds, but if there was 1,500 people there because it was full, it was like 200 white people there. And the luchador, the Lucha Brothers, old Penthouse and Felix.
That's right.
They were fucking diving everywhere and falling on people's heads back then. But they were the stars, and then Jacob Fatu, I mean, he appeals to Martians, to anybody. And MJF was on the show, and he can get over even, in a fucking iceberg too. But they were coming. That's who was buying the tickets, who was selling the tickets, was the luchadors. Point being, we shall see. The problem becomes that there is still a large group of American fans that are going to look at a lucha match, especially now, because I'm not being xenophobic when I say this, because our country suffers the same thing. Wrestling matches as a whole look a lot phonier, sillier, and faker than they do 30 years ago, and so do the matches in Mexico. But since there's still the cultural difference, you're going to get a lot of American fans that look and go, what the fuck? If they are not wanting just a silly show for the kids and to laugh at things, the ironic audience, like the AEW folks call it, then they're still going to look at a match like Mr. Iguana and Friends as, oh, fucking come on. And
it's never been faker, yet the injuries have never been worse.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, all the matches are fake, but everybody's having goddamn spinal fusions. But, oh, Christ, you said it earlier. It's like a lucha version of Orange Cassidy popped up in the WWE. Vince McMahon, that's the one good thing that I could say about Vince McMahon in the course of this podcast is he would have had a goddamn conniption fit and probably hit the ring and fucking thrown that guy out, because it wasn't even, I mean, the guy behind the gobbledygooker, but he didn't want you to make the business look like a complete Benny Hill fucking sketch.
You open that door. Why don't we just talk about the opening match? And of course, there were multiple competitors, but the one who immediately stood out to people who naturally have never seen him before, the majority of the audience, was AAA star Mr. Iguana. And at this point, the majority of the audience appeared to write to us and say, I can't wait to hear what Jim says about this.
Well, he looked like a green gold dust. If you can visualize this, folks, for those of you who are lucky enough not to have to see this, he's completely either in a green bodysuit or green makeup on the hands and the face and the bald head and the weird, and he keeps flicking his tongue in and out like he's catching fucking fireflies. And his, I don't know, what would you call that, Brian? Was it a manager, a friend, a companion, a pet? What is the little...
Mine. I don't know. It was a stuffed, I presume, a stuffed iguana, stuffed animal.
Well, not like a real iguana that's been taxidermied, but like a children's play toy. I guess children's plush iguanas are a big seller down there. And, you know, here's the thing. If this was the variety show guy on America's Got Talent or the Ed Sullivan Show, could be in the 50s, could be last year, that does the funny bits while they play the music. I mean, he's talented. He's talented. But this is, I mean, it's not even, I don't know. I still think Orange Cassidy is worse because he's from this country and he's just not even really entertaining in this fashion. This fucking guy, he's like you said about Harley Cameron. As long as she wasn't in wrestling, she ought to be a ventriloquist on a TV show somewhere, whatever. It's just, it's so ridiculous. I can't work up the disdain or the indignance that most people want me to, because it's just almost like I've thrown the last bucket of water that I can on the burning house. I have fucking made the last fucking call for the fire department. We're just standing around watching the fucking smoke rise up now on it's so insulting because if he was just doing the gimmick like a green gold dust and doing his thing, but when the other people work with him in catching and positioning and doing the bits with the fucking stuffed animal. Yes, I like it that he can put his toe under it and kick it up in the air and it'll land on his shoulder. Well, that's neat. Fuck. I wonder if he can spin plates and keep them. Yeah, but it's not fucking wrestling. And everyone's going to think Cornette hates fun. You know, maybe, okay, if this was the goddamn fun thing, and it would be so different and so unusual that you could look past it because, but it's just the latest in a long line of fucking dog and pony shows and goddamn circus sideshow geeks. So that's what he does, is he crawls around on the ground like a lizard, flicks his tongue in and out, has bursts of motion where he can actually move around and seems athletic, and then does spots with his stuffed iguana.
The commentators are really putting him over.
Oh yeah, they're going to sell stuffed iguanas. But I don't know. He's better made for the AEW audience, because I can maybe see after a time or two some of the less forgiving WWE television crowds, if they chose to do that on Raw or SmackDown, going, what the fuck? But
if he pops up every now and then, their audience will go crazy. If they overdo it, it'll be another thing. But if all of a sudden they're in LA again and CM Punk needs a surprise partner.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And out from the back crawls the Iguana Man.
What? Stop it. Stop it. Certainly to God, Punk has creative control over lizards in his contract.
There was something so cheap about it that it was intriguing. It was almost like someone went to AI and said, give me an insect-eating luchador. And this guy popped up. Is there a magnet? Is it a magnet that makes it stick to his shoulder? What do you think it is?
Well, no, I mean, he's catching it. He's got this thing down the way that he's, flipping that thing back and forth. He's like a Harlem Globetrotter with a basketball, except he's got a fucking stuffed iguana. He's worked on this. He's got it down. He's doing it well. He nailed all his shit. It wasn't like one of the AEW fucking indie crowd goofballs that don't even have their shit together. They just try a bunch of shit and hit half of it. He's good at what he's doing. I just can't stand the goddamn idea he's doing it in a fucking wrestling ring.
And this was the start of the show after, we'll talk about it afterwards, the opening ceremony. If you saw any of that, that was a spectacle. But
well, didn't I hear one of the lady that sang the Mexican national anthem messed up the words?
Oh, I don't know. I
believe somebody said that.
It went for a while, and the image of Shawn Michaels next to the sister of Antonio Pena was quite the
my
visual.
God, yes. She looks like a cross between a Bond villain and a Stepford wife, and he looked like a
cross-eyed kid.
Bond villain.
That famous old West gunslinger, the cross-eyed kid.
A cross-eyed kid. I'm going to shoot you and you right between the eyes.
But back to Mr. Iguana.
Yes.
Immediately, there was a Topps card, because Topps has a WWE deal. There was a Topps Mr. Iguana card for the pay-per-view event. They had a vignette video for him on Raw, showing highlights from the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
That's not what you do if you're embarrassed by something or if you don't plan to do more with it. Do you think, I mean, we joke about him being...
I don't think they knew how much reaction it was going to get. I think they obviously knew what they were getting because they put it on the show, and they probably thought, well, let's see if he gets over. I don't know if they expected the level of that, but they've been certainly ready to capitalize on it.
Well, we will stay on top of the Iguana news and see what happens.
But it's at this point, how can I get mad anymore? The cause is lost.
Well, would you be madder if it was AEW? Because at least with WWE, there's a chance you may see little kids dressed up as iguanas buying the iguana merch, and AEW would be for adults.
You got a point there. And also the fact is, if you're gonna shit in somebody's fucking face, make it a good one. Do it well. Place it properly. I'm saying do a professional job of it. Instead of going out and just doing a bunch of shit that just falls on its ass, at least go out and do a professional job. So that's what they're doing here with Mr. Iguana. I don't know what else to say.
Any other thoughts on the match?
No, because all I did was I watched it on YouTube. I'll be honest with you.
Everyone did.
And I skipped through to the parts where the green guy was in the ring so I could see what he was doing. Because again, this is now what WWE, I think another one of their strategies is they say, okay, our only remote competition anywhere near us does wrestling just for people that want to fucking watch guys do a bunch of moves. So now we've got a major ownership in a company just like that. Let's just get these guys over. And maybe we'll get the Hispanic market too. And they don't particularly care about upholding any wrestling traditions. They just want to sell everything they can get their hands on, including, as Christine Jarrett would say, the glasses off your own face.
Anything that gets any kind of social media buzz, anything that gets any kind of buzz that will sell anything, they're going to jump on. That's TKO and that's WWE, and that was the opening match.
As a matter of fact, what is the price of iguana meat per pound these days?
Well, I don't know.
Do you think they're going to get into the iguana farming business too?
Where is that usually done? Where is that conducted?
Well, apparently now it's going to be up in Stamford. Before, I guess, well, Mr. Iguana, where's he from?
Well, they introduced a mini iguana, like Doink had Dink.
Well, no, I think wherever the home base of iguanas is ought to be where Iguana's hometown is, right? From the,
what was his hometown? Did they say it?
I don't remember. I didn't think of it now, but from the iguana farm in Acapulco, here's Mr. Iguana.
That was the opening match. Did you watch any of the women's match?
Did they have a women's match on there?
They did, with Stephanie Vaquer, who was incredibly talented, I have to say. She's really good. But
she was on the other show, too.
I didn't expect you to watch it, and I'm not surprised you didn't. There was a match with Psycho Clown. Did you see that?
No, because I watched the main event with Chad Gable versus Vikingo.
Hijo del Vikingo.
I'm sorry, the son of Vikingo. And Because only, again, I'm sorry if everybody's mad at me. Oh, you didn't sit down and watch this whole 3-hour show they did before the 3-hour show they did. But one has to have a fucking life. And I knew what I was going to be seeing with this one, except I will say this. Chad Gable needs a raise. Chad Gable needs a raise. Chad Gable needs another medal. Chad Gable needs to, I don't have somebody come and massage him and feed him grapes every night. This guy can do everything. He has picked up, he's a better luchador than the luchadors. At least his shit, you kind of actually buy. It's not just fucking hokey, choreographed routine with him. I would love to see them do something with this guy, even if he had to have a partner that's bigger, that could be his enforcer or whatever. Drop the comedy, drop the fucking stupid mask. Don't put him in the ring with greenhorns from Acapulco and feature this fucking guy. He's one of the most incredible performers they've got. And if you concentrated on it and produced it well, he has a personality that you could use against main event talent. Not only his facials, but his promos and etc. And what is your personal fucking viewpoint of Vikingo? Oh, great one.
Well, I appreciate anyone who has taken on the stylings of Bow Wow Wow. That haircut. No, I think he's small, but he's talented. And I saw this in the past when he wrestled Kenny Omega in AEW. Suzanne actually stopped and started watching. He, because of what he was doing, caught her attention. Now, it seemed like some of the things today at this event took a little bit of time to set up and balance himself. Sometimes they seem maybe unnecessary. But again, you're going for pops. You're going for big spots to get big pops. I don't mind him. He seems very happy, very nice guy. He seems like the kind of guy you want to root for. I mean, if he only had a real name instead of, that's Vikingo. He doesn't seem anything like a Viking. I'll say that. They just had Viking warriors there. Yeah.
I thought those Vikings rode those big horses and had the fucking armor and all the swords and shit. Here's the problem. Yeah, he's very athletically talented, and it takes a while to set some of that shit up, which is, again, why that there's a fucking gap between American wrestling and lucha, with the American fans going, well, just fucking move. But also, here's the problem. I'm not even talking about as a talent that can connect with people. I see the difference in Gable's small too, but that's not the problem. He's in great shape and he's an Olympic athlete. So, right, nevertheless. Fucking Vikingo's face, or his lack of face, and he's like a male lyric Valkyria or whatever. It just, she looks like she ought to be a clerk at a pet shop. The look on the face, he's not connecting with people. She doesn't connect. It's just, I'm doing these spots. I'm doing this performance. I'm in this routine. And every once in a while he'll smile, as you said, but I don't, he's not going to, if it's for a Spanish speaking audience, he's going to be able to talk to him. If it ain't, he's not. And I just see a guy with a bland fucking face. I don't see a personality. I don't see and also, like you said, the name, if he had somebody's actual name, that would help him in America, but it would hurt him in Mexico. Because the luchadors, most of them don't have a goddamn name. Well, I mean, all of them have, you know what I'm saying. You don't have Fred Smith is not their name. So it depends on what the audience is, what audience they're broadcasting for, what they're aiming for, but there's going to be some clash amongst some of these audiences on some of these televised events, much like I mentioned in AEW when they're doing the Grand Slam Mexico thing, and they got MJF and Mystico. And depend on if I was to have that match,
I want to see that.
I'd have two completely different matches for Mexico and for the United States. But if it's on their big show, they're just going to have one fucking match and everybody's going to see it. So there's going to be some issues with all of this stuff. But I love Chad Gable.
That was your match review? That's it?
Oh, that. Well, and again, Gable got beat again.
What'd you think of the apron spot?
I zoned out on a lot of this, to be honest with you.
Canadian Destroyer on the apron.
Generalities. Oh, that's
off the rope, off the top rope.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid too. I mean, what are you going to say?
Well, that was
the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
You've got you've got a fucking guy that could be a real asset in Gable, could be a real asset to your television program, either Raw or SmackDown, where your primary audience is the United States. But yet this guy that, again, to the audience in Mexico, they love him. And if the match was just being seen in Mexico, I'd have him beat Gable and hang him up and fucking wear him out like a piñata. But it's being seen everywhere. And now you've got a personality on your show who's been beat by this little fucking mope-faced Mexican fellow to the American fans. It's a worlds collide, all right. And Gable has picked this style of work up better than, I can't believe how good, but at the same time, it just showed that every possible goddamn thing that he could do couldn't beat this fucking guy, and the guy beat him.
And again, it was a room that was really into it. So if you're watching it, you're watching someone you presume is a big star there because of the reactions beat Chad Gable. Yeah. You know, as good as Chad Gable is, it's not like Vikingo beat Seth Rollins. You know, it's not like he beat...
Well, no.
So,
but it's also Vikingo.
But he's the mega champion. That was the belt Omega had. Did he beat Kenny Omega for that belt, or how did that happen?
Boy, now that tickles me. Yeah, that's the point. The point is that the average American fan who is not of the, I want to watch a bunch of guys do the goddamn trapeze variety, would look at Vikingo and say, he's their fucking champion. The people who are attuned to the, whether it be the Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair era, or the Steve Austin and the Rock era, or the Triple H era, the John Cena era, or the era today of at least it's goddamn Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and they look at Vikingo and go, he's the guy? Then who's the flunkies?
Mr. Iguana. Should Mr. Iguana be the guy?
Mr. Iguana should be the guy.
Would you have a problem with Mr. Iguana going over Chad Gable on this card?
Oh, God damn it.
If that had been the first time you saw him, not in the opening match, but crawling to the ring for Chad Gable.
For Chad Gable? Well, I would have said, why don't we just piss in his mouth while he's down there? Poor Gable. Fuck. It's just, it's a hopeless cause.
One last question about all this. Does the WWE AAA relationship producing this event, which got a lot of attention, does that help AEW at all going into their CMLL? What do? They do, not Worlds Collide. It is World's End. No, not World's End.
Grand Slam.
Slam. No, they have a World's End. They have a World's End. That's their end of the year show.
Well, yes, but not in Mexico.
No.
I don't think anything that the WWE is doing right now is helping AEW. I don't think anything AEW is doing right now is helping AEW. They're going to take over the world, and they're going to hold every major city hostage for rights fees, and they're going to be selling iguanas to your children.
And they're going to drop that city if another city pops up with a bigger rights fee.
Exactly.
Well, that was AEW. That was AAA, AAA, and WWE Worlds Collide. And Jim, perhaps if
Hey, let me ask you this. If the WWF lost a lawsuit to the World Wildlife Fund, then what's the Automobile Club, the American Automobile Club, doing about goddamn AAA?
Well, let's see how much further into America they go. Actually, that's a good question. I wonder if there are any trademark issues that are country restrictive, but we will find out in the future. Jim, perhaps you watched this pay-per-view event and being a fan of old school wrestling, it felt like a bad dream. And now you need a good dream, and maybe you need a little bit of help, a little bit of dream powder, and we know some good friends of ours that can help all the listeners with their dreams.
Well, now, our friends at Beam are back, ladies and gentlemen, and they make that fine dream powder, but the dream powder doesn't actually make you dream bright. It makes you sleep deeply. Now, you do sometimes dream when you sleep deeply, but this is not a dream inducer, but rather a sleep inducer to where you would have it's sort of like a weather report. Sleep with an option of dreaming. 40% chance of light nightmares with possibly a real screamer toward the end when the low front comes in. No, nevertheless, folks, Beam's Dream Powder has changed everything. It's changed the game, especially if you play games at night while you're asleep. You may be stressed. You're just thinking about all the things going on in the world. When you try to go to bed at night, your brain doesn't shut off. You're thinking about work. Maybe you and I, Brian, we're thinking about podcasts. You need something to help you wind down and not knock you out, but help you sleep and wake up feeling like a functioning human being. And that's where the Dream Powder comes in from our friends at Beam. As a matter of fact, we were doing this spot on the program we did a couple of days ago, and Stacy was listening to that program right as she was enjoying her nightly cup of Beam Dream Powder in her own special embossed glass Beam Dream Powder mug that she mixes it up in. Because, folks, this is an all-natural sleep blend with science-backed ingredients. And when you back science into a corner, they come out fighting. And they come out fighting with ingredients designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, not permanently. They're still working on that one. And you're going to wake up refreshed. Unlike the other sleep aids, there's no next day grogginess. Not like Brian when I flew across the pond to England and took 1 milligram of Xanax for every hour I was in the air and woke up the next day in the hotel going, where the fuck am I? No, I tell you, you're not. There's no next day grogginess
we can say no. That we could all agree on. No, that will not be happening to you.
No. There's no next day grogginess or even the day after grogginess. Just real deep sleep that helps you feel good in the morning. Well, Stacy, the next day, she woke up and she was talking to me cheerfully and asking me questions. And suddenly she looked at me and said, "Who are you? What do you do? Wait a minute. Whose house am I in?" But she'd had a real good night's sleep.
Well, no, you will have a normal good night's sleep without any of that. Just you'll wake up and be ready for the new day, or a new day, not the new day. Their promo last night was terrible. You'll be ready for a new day.
Yes, well, no, actually,
new start, breakfast,
if you get the special package from Beam of the Dream Powder, the new day will actually come to your door and pour it for you.
They will not. There's no association that we know of, and we don't anticipate one with the new day, but you will have a new day every day when you wake up. Get ready for a fresh day, work, fun, kids, family, outdoors.
Oh, this stuff helps you have kids. Well, yeah, if you're sleeping
not what I said.
Enough.
No, what I'm saying is go to sleep. And, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is have a good night's sleep and then wake up and you can do it all over again. No problems.
Don't toss and turn is what you're saying. You can sleep through the night without tossing and turning, reeling and rocking until the break of dawn. You can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Most people, they've done the survey. It's science-backed. Most people are not only ready to take on the day, they start out by kicking the day in the nuts. Every once in a while, somebody will try to grab a day's eyeballs and get a good jump on them. Boy, I'll tell you what, after Stacy takes hers, if I take mine, we can sneak up on that son of a bitch and day.
I don't know.
One from the front and one from the back. Take him down and fuck him up.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, beyond the fun entertainment that comes out of the mind of a creative genius like Jim Cornette, think about a good night's sleep, and let's just focus on that and focus on only that, a good night's sleep from our friends at Beam.
Where do you think I get all these great creative ideas? 92% of users of the Beam Dream Powder reported better sleep and waking up refreshed, and the other 8% reported coming up with different podcast material. Sort of like the psilocybin and the mushrooms. But nevertheless, Beam has improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep. And that wasn't just the one guy. We ought to check on him. He's been asleep for a while, but it's a lot of people. And right now, for a limited time only, Beam is giving my listeners their best offer yet, ladies and gentlemen. Their best offer yet. If you have no more questions, you're free to go. That's their best offer. No, 40% off. 40% off the best-selling Beam Dream Powder for a limited time only by going to Shop Beam. That's Shop BEAM, shopbeam.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. 40% off. I'm telling you, how in the world, Brian, you're getting up to 40% off on this thing. That's up to almost half. The next step would be 2/3, and pretty soon they're giving it to you for free. But that wouldn't happen because I don't know how they can afford to do this.
Get it today is what you're trying to say.
Get it today and go to sleep quickly. And you can, the best thing to do, I would say, is just
go to that promo code.
The best thing to do is just go to shopbeam.com/JCE and use that code JCE for up to 40% off on the Beam Dream Powder, and then just go to sleep and stay there until we call for you.
That's right. Enjoy the boogie woogie in your head with Dream Powder with our friends at Beam. Jim, one last time, that link and promo code.
That's the boogie woogie powder you'll get from Beam's Dream at shopbeam.com/JCE.